Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, I'm going to talk about highbrow books, but also trashy books. So, firstly, anyone who watched my weekly wrap-up video yesterday will know that I've got COVID. And I feel really crap, and this video may not make any sense at all. So we will see, but a couple of people have done some really interesting videos about the concept of like different tiers of fiction, and I wanted to do a response video to those because I think they, were kind of partly inspired by Gub August. I think there are some videos that I haven't got around to watching yet because I've been away on holiday, so I am trying to work through all of them. But the two I've watched so far were Gina Stanya's and Brian from Bookish's, which are about highbrow, middlebrow, lowbrow, and trash fiction, and what the distinctions are between them. So Gina kind of started the conversation, I think. Brian's video, as always with Brian's videos, was just fantastic and really detailed and a really interesting analysis of the kind of economic and technological and social reasons why there are these distinctions in literature. But it occurred to me when I was watching them, obviously I don't talk about highbrow literature on the channel very much. That's not really what the focus of Criminally is all about. So it occurred to me I don't really know what highbrow books are, and Brian and Gina both provided their own definitions of them, which broadly speaking is that they are books that aspire to be art and to talk about some of the bigger subjects and to be to emotionally connect with the readers in a meaningful way, I guess, and that aspire to be art. I thought I would Google to see if I'd read any highbrow books because I think I must have done. And actually, I've read quite a lot. So the first result that came up, or Google does that thing where you Google something and it comes up with a suggested answer basically. And this was I don't know how good this answer is because actually when you click on the link in it, it's a Goodreads shelf that someone's created for highbrow books. But I've actually read quite a lot of them. So I won't go through all of them, but some of the ones I have read on this list were Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which I quite liked, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which I loved, Lord of the Flies by William Golding, which I really liked as well, Animal Farm by George Orwell, which I read since I started the channel, The Stranger by Albert Camus, which I've read, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, which other ones I read? Of Mice and Men, Life of Pi, 1984, Catch-22, Lolita, The Old Man and the Sea. So it turns out I have actually read a bunch of highbrow books without even realising it. So that's good, I guess. And I did, all of those books I've just mentioned, I did enjoy. And one of the things that Brian and Gina were both talking about in their videos is, what's the distinction between highbrow and middlebrow and then lowbrow, and then where does trash fit into that? So it's that last question in particular that I wanted to talk about because that's more in my my bailiwick. But I also think the distinction between highbrow and middlebrow is really interesting. And Gina, declared herself to be a middlebrow kind of a reader in her video. And I think I probably am as well. I mean, I love trashy stuff, but I don't think, and I'll get onto this, I don't think because something is trash, that doesn't mean it can't be middlebrow. So middlebrow really is books that are designed to be entertaining, but have something more as well, have some of the qualities of highbrow literature as well, have some, kind of attempt at a deeper meaning, attempt at an emotional connection, more in-depth characters and things like that. Whereas lowbrow tends to be very much about plot and concept and kind of sensation. So You know, a lot of the books I talk about on the channel are definitely lowbrow. I'd say the majority of the books I've talked about on the channel are lowbrow. But middlebrow, I think, is you know, an interesting genre, and I love one of my favourite things, and I have said this on the channel before, is reading a book which appears to be trash, and finding out that actually it's got something more going on. You know, a book that's been dismissed but actually has some has some deeper meaning, I think is a wonderful thing. So anyway, so where does trash fit into that? So you know, it feels like lowbrow, middlebrow, highbrow, and this isn't supposed to be judgmental, but it feels like there's kind of a you know, there's a ranking there, isn't there? Whether we like it or not, you know, the use of words low, middle, high suggests that we value highbrow more than we value lowbrow, and I think, you know, that's one of the things that pretty much everything I do on the channel is you know, kind of fighting against, is that notion that some books have more value than others. Now, I'm sure Steve Donoghue will be getting angry as I say this, and clearly some books are better in an objective way. Some books are better than others, but I stand by, I think I've said it on the channel before, which is any book can be hugely important to, you know, a reader or many readers, even if it's a book which is objectively terrible. And I think that's really important. And it's really important that we as readers, and you know, I would consider people who either make booktube videos or consume a lot of booktube videos to be, you know, avid, committed readers. It's really important that we don't denigrate people for reading, you know, books that we consider to be trashy. And that's the whole reason for Garb August. It's about it's about for us as readers, and hopefully for particularly people who don't normally dip into trash. It's about encouraging people to discover this, you know, this whole range of books that they wouldn't normally read, and to realise that actually there is value there is entertainment there is, you know, in some cases deeper meaning there. So I am, and, you know, Brian said this in his video as well. I'm against that kind of categorisation of low, middle, high. I think it's kind of useful shorthand, but I also think it's, in some ways, it's harmful because it suggests that some books have more value than others. And whilst this is the tricky bit, isn't it? Because works of great literature, one could argue, do have, you know, more value than Nick Carter, The Judas Spy. And I think they probably do. But that doesn't mean that this book doesn't have value. That's the important thing. This book should not be dismissed as just complete nonsense, because it does have value in its own right. So where does trash fit in then? So you could think that trash is a tier below lowbrow. So, you know, in that lowbrow, middlebrow, highbrow, lowbrow is stuff that is, you know, purely entertainment, purely, you know, but often based on kind of sensationalism and things like that, and, you know, doesn't have the redeeming qualities, if you like, that middlebrow fiction has, where it is, you know, pulling in some of the themes and considerations and things like that of highbrow literature. But I don't think trash is below lowbrow. I think it's something separate. I think it sits outside that tier ranking. So for me, and I've said this repeatedly on the channel, people are probably getting bored of me saying it, I think what's key about trash is the intent of the publisher in publishing it, in that they are trying to cash in on, you know, something that's, you know, a cash cow basically. There's something that they think is going to make money if they publish books about it, and they're trying to cash in on that. And there are many other traits of trashy books. And there are many traits that trashy books share with lowbrow books, in that they tend to be about, they tend to be more about plot than character. They tend to be, you know, sensationalist. You know, they tend to push themselves in terms of, you know, having explicit sex and violence and that kind of thing. But because my definition of trash is based on the intent of the publisher rather than the intent of the author, I think that means that you can have trash books that are middlebrow and potentially even highbrow. I'm struggling to think of a highbrow book which is trash, but I'm sure there is one. And I've said, I mean, I did say in my original Trashy Books tag video, when I was, one of the questions was, what's a book that's praised by the critics that you think is trash? And my answer to that was American Psycho. And I would stand by that. So I think American Psycho is highbrow, in that it's about bigger stuff, to just the book. But I think it was very much marketed in terms of its shock value, in terms of the explicitness of the violence in it, and I think you could class it as trash as a result of that. I was trying to think of examples of middlebrow books which I think are trash, and I think The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty might count as trash, in that it is. I think it's a book that would exist regardless of the way it was marketed. But would it still exist today? Would it still be in print today? I'm not sure. But if you think about how it was marketed very much cashing in on kind of moral panics around Satanism and things like that, and also very much on the explicitness of some of the content. And I think those are both designators of trash. And I think I'm certainly not saying that it's a bad book. I think it's a really good book. But I think that is a middlebrow book, in that there's deeper stuff going on there in terms of discussions of faith and religion and things like that, and some of the psychological elements of it. But I think it was a lot of the marketing for it was really quite trashy. So I would say that that's a middlebrow book, which is trash. Clearly, most trashy books are lowbrow. But as I say, I think there's a designation that sits outside of that lowbrow, middlebrow, highbrow tiering, and therefore can, in theory, apply to books across all three. So yes, those are my thoughts on trash, lowbrow, middlebrow, highbrow. I'm glad to have discovered that I have read some highbrow books. I wasn't sure if I had or not. I promise not to talk about them too much on the channel. I will stick to talking about the kind of lowbrow stuff we all love, and maybe a bit of middlebrow every so often as well. As in my video yesterday, if you watch that, I just haven't got the energy to find a random book for the shelves and talk about that. And apologies again for the very drab background of today's video. But yes, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree that trash, that highbrow and middlebrow books can be trash. Let me know what your thoughts on the subject are. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well. Hope you're doing good stuff. And I'll speak to you again soon. Cheerio.